What's Good podcast.
Are you ready?
Hey, ladies and gents, this is your girl Brianna Javon with What's Good podcast, and we are in season 5. Thanks to you all. The theme of this season is film. So I've reached out to some of my good friends, and we're gonna go ahead and tap into other people that I've never met before. But today we have an amazing friend of mine. Well, this could be some gossip show. This could be a little catch up on Brianna. So, this could be a total different show if I could let it be. But let's
Everybody in the world
welcome,
knows you is me.
let's welcome Kris Welcome. How art thou, friend?
I'm doing amazing. I'm still in LA. I'm still out here hustling, trying to get it, making sure I don't go back to Orange, child.
I know that's right. Well, as you guys and gals know, we do not have interviews, but instead we have genuine conversations. So let's get into it. Kris, we always start out with icebreakers. So are you ready for yours?
Sure, let's go.
And I'm really excited to actually hear your answer to this because you're so confident. So I'm excited to hear your answer to this. Okay. Your question is, do you think you are good at what you do and why?
I think I am really good at what I do. I think that whenever you find your groove, it's easy. I always tell people I don't work hard, I work smart. And to do that, you have to really be in your element. You have to really know what the fuck it is that you're doing because it's not really cutting corners. It's just getting to the goal with a level of ease because you're always going to encounter a problem at work. You're always going to have a problem that you have to find a solution for. But I feel like if you're working smarter, you typically are getting to it faster, which allows you to accomplish more things. And you have to really be good at what you do to get the work done and not break a sweat while you do it.
Okay, so I want to tap in that a little bit more because that's been my mindset lately is I want to work smarter, not harder. So what was that one incident that made you change your mindset to think that way?
I mean, I don't ever think I really worked hard for anything. Like, you've known me since undergrad. I wrote everybody's papers. I partied my ass off. I did all of the things. I traveled. And I mean, I still got out of undergrad with a major change from pharmacy to communication and still made it
Mhm.
to grad school and was done with my master's by 23 with all of the things that that happened in my life from being my grandmother's power of attorney, dealing with my grandpa, dealing with my mama, all of these things were all happening. But I just kept the goal in mind. And I think that for me, because I've always had so many hats and so many people have depended on me, my goal is always, well, how can I still do all of these things, stay sane, and still be able to figure out what's next. So the only way to do that is to work smart because if you work hard, you deplenish yourself. You're tired, you're depleted. Like I just never wanted to fall into that rut where I was burnt out. So the best way to do that is to assess the whole situation, figure out
Mhm.
where things can go wrong and come up with a plan of execution and then just go for it.
Do you ever think about plan B or is it always plan A and we just gonna stick to it? It's like a tunnel vision in a sense.
It's like plan A typically is the goal for it to work, but in plan A there might be plan A1, A1-3, and then there's in that plan C, which might come after plan B once a sub part of plan A fell through. Or since this fell, just completely shoot down plan B, D, and M, we might need to jump straight to plan Q. Like I literally think of everything through and break it down. Like it's a weird thought process, and when I break down how I think to like people that ask me like, well, how'd you come up with this, or how do you already know what the next thing to do is? I'm like, because I already thought about this when we first said we were doing whatever we're doing, because
Mm,
everything's gonna have a problem. That's what makes great project managers. That's what makes great managers, period, or people that
mhm.
lead. I need to be able to foresee a problem and not only assess that a problem is imminent, but know how to fix that problem. And I just don't
I
like to
love
look
it.
stupid. And I feel like when a problem happens, and so on sets, I'm the producer. So that's wardrobe, that's hair, that's makeup, that's lighting, that's gaffer, that's audio, that's freaking camera crew, that's production crew, that's catering, all of these parts. And if you're the director's staff, all
Mhm.
of these people report to the producer. The director is the glorified job, but the person that had to go to work for any of those people to show up is me. I did the permits. I did the location scouting. I broke down the script. I sat down with the director and worked out the lookbook and the shot list. I've done all these things. So for all of these departments to come to you and have random questions and fires that you have to put out, you just have to have a certain level of problem solving naturally that no matter what, you always have an answer. And on the set, 10 minutes can be thousands of dollars. So every moment that
Mm,
you don't have an answer that you're searching for, there's something else that's failing. So you're like the puppet master of all these things. You have to have a certain intellectual composite that allows you to see everything through from the beginning.
dang. So, like you mentioned, like you're super analytical.
hmm Yet still creative. So there are a few producers that are like creative lines. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you can give me a script and come up with this thing, and I can deal with the character development. I can come up with the plot. I can come up with how to make the story have its flow according to the rubric of
Mm-hmm.
how we write scripts. And also be able to be like, okay, all right, you want to blow up a car. Well, it takes this permit. You need this coordinator. You have to average in this money for all of this. You didn't have to average in the place that you're doing it. Do you need a certain level of, do you need police presence there because you're doing it in Glendale versus LA County? It's so many
Mm-hmm.
small factors to think about. So a lot of people like, oh, I have this dream. I want to be an actor. I want to write. I want to, make these great films. But you want to make this film with all of this action in it and all this special effects, but you're trying to do it for $50,000. That's impossible. So it's also
Dang.
being realistic in the goals that you set too, which I think a lot of creatives don't have. Cause you know
Mm-hmm.
me, bitch, my mind goes like, we're gonna come up with the most elaborate plan. We're up all night. It's gonna do this, this, and
Mm-hmm.
that. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but that'll cost this. We only got that. So let me scale that back and be realistic, because
Mm-hmm.
between the wildest imagination and reality is sensibility. And I think
Yeah.
for a creative, because you just care so much about your project and you're passionate about it and you just have this vision you don't want to stray away from, it's hard to get that business through it. For me, as somebody that's on both sides, it's hard to talk to a writer like, your script is great, but this budget you got won't work. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
change the vision and come up with something else, or seek these alternative routes to get what it is that you need. And we're doing consultations, and I'm like being real, and they just still cannot grasp it. So
Mm-hmm.
it takes a certain level of detachment to have something that you care about so deeply, and you are going to have to scale back from the original vision and then become realistic. And for a lot of people that don't appreciate the business side of it, it just strips them of the creativity and they lose it. So I think being able to be an analytical creative is very, very important.
This has gotten off to an amazing start. Okay, we haven't even gotten into the genuine conversation. This is exciting. Okay, so let's get into the genuine conversation now. I usually start off with who is the guest. So for you is who is Kris?
Kris is a country bumpkin, hitting his toes and head on shelves and bedposts all over LA trying to figure it out. Kris is an
Mm-hmm.
author, writer, editor, journalist, creative director, and production consultant. I'm the person that you call whenever you just had a car wreck. You need to figure out the first step of doing your car insurance. I'm also the first person you call and you're like, all right, I have an idea for a book. How do I map it out? Hell, I'm the person you call like, hey, my grandma's sick. We need to figure out nursing home, end of life. My mission, I talk about it in my book, is that I don't want to know everything about something, but I'm on a mission to know something about everything. And so I think that's why my trajectory has just been so interesting and not linear. And people be like, what do you do? I'm like, well, it just depends on where the money is and who's calling. I'm all over the place.
And with me knowing this, right? I've always wondered, was that something like you growing up? Because you've always been like a go with the flow. Bree, let's go to here. Let's go here. Like, let's do this. Let's go do that. Even when you remember when I had came to LA and we had that list, you was like, okay, what we doing tonight? So has that always been just you growing up, or maybe when we went to college? Because you've always been a go with the wind. And now I get it, the mindset of I just want to know a little bit. Just a little bit of everything. I don't have to know everything, but just give me a little bit of it and I'll be all right. So now that makes sense. But
Um,
where did that come from?
I don't know. I think that so my mother was older. My mom had me at 36. My dad was 42. My grandparents were in their late 60s, early 70s. So it was just a completely different millennial experience than
Mm,
somebody born in 1992 with a mother born in 1970. My mother was
mm,
born in the 50s. So
mhm,
that's completely a different landscape. So I'm not going to spend the night in my friend's house. And I grew up an only child. My brother died when I was 9. He was 24. He had sickle cell. So that made my mother, I guess when a mother loses a child, the remaining children, she just hovers over them and loves them insanely way more than she did before. And I think that that was the thing that my mother was like always trying to keep me under her thumb, but raising me was hard. I always fought back. I always knew that I was different. I always knew that this small town with 18,000 fucking people in it had nothing for me from the time I was 11. Like I knew there was something different about me from my cousins and my classmates and even my mom. Like I've just never understood her. And I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I don't want, oh mom, I want to go here. No, no, you're not going. And I was always like, oh, when I get grown, I'm going to go. Like I'm gonna do it all. If I want to do it, I'm outside. And I woke up on my 18th birthday and I told my mom, I'm moving out your house and I'm never coming back. And I'll be 30 in March, and I
mm.
have not gone back to my mother's house. Rain, hail, sleet, snow,
I
starvation,
can agree.
homelessness. I'm not going back because that's defeat because there's nothing there. So I think that
Mhm,
when I got to college, I was just around all these different personalities compared to like the people I graduated high school with is the same
mhm,
classmates I had since preschool. Whereas
mm.
in Dallas, there are thousands of kids in your school. My graduating class was 142 people.
Dang.
Yeah.
So y'all know everybody business.
Everybody to this day. I just got a video yesterday of two of my high school classmates fighting in the streets, and it was so nostalgic. I'm like, wow, y'all been fighting since 2008.
Gosh.
But it just reminds me, it just makes me, not that I'm better than anybody, but it just makes me really, number one, appreciate having the experiences of being from there, but
Mhm,
also being able to appreciate 50 times more the experience of being somebody that's 29, is an
mhm,
author, has had a master's degree that's 6 years old, that has been to 5 continents. I've just had a world renowned life experience. And I just think that, all of those things have built me up. And going to TSU and meeting other great Black people and then coming to LA to go to grad school and culturing myself completely different in diversity and
mhm.
just becoming more well rounded. Like, yeah, it's just a constant mission of learning. And growing up, my dad used to always say, a man that knows everything is ready to die. And I used to
Mm,
hate hearing that. It bothered
mhm,
the fuck out of me. But now I'm almost 30 and I'm like, okay, every day is a learning lesson.
mhm.
So if you're
That
just
is
receptive to learning, then your life will just move on and pivot. Like it's like, all right, there's something new to do every day. Figure it out and just do it.
that is so true. Okay, so I want to kind of take it back, right? We talked about your foundation. Let's talk about college because you did switch degrees from pharmacy to, I mean, I know you did debate, but was it to communications?
Radio.
Okay. What made you change, like, okay, pharmacy is not for me? Like, what was that? What was that phase, that transition?
Pre-cal.
I feel it.
Oh my God, I'll never forget going to pre-cal the first day. God, I think his name was Professor Hollis or something like that. And he put this fucking test
Mhm.
in front of us on the first day, and I didn't know not one of the answers. And I was the first one done, but I wasn't done at all. And he was like, this is the base of everything you're gonna do. He was like, do you know that you're gonna take organic chemistry in 2 years? And I was like, yeah. I was like, but science is easiest to math. He was like, well, that's where science and math meet the road. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, hi, I want to change my major.
Real quick.
And on top of that, I went to a HBC. We went to Texas Southern, but in the pharmacy
Mhm.
program, you have a lot more Indian, Asian influence. It's not really the Black experience, and the class blocks are weird. You're taking long labs. You having
Mhm.
to study way more. So I'm walking down the Tiger Walk, and it's Hump Day, but I'm like, oh,
Right.
damn, I really want to fuck it up on the yard right now. But damn, I gotta go to pharmacy elective because I have to know the top 300 drugs in 3 weeks.
Gosh almighty.
I was just like, I'm not getting a great experience. And then once you get into the electives, and you be like, oh, this is the career, this is the field. I have
Mhm,
all this personality. Am I really going to be cooped up in your local Walgreens pharmacy pushing pills?
mhm.
Nah.
That's how I felt about accounting. I totally understand that. I
Hmm.
totally. So what pushed you to communication specifically?
Uh, I had done debate all my years of high school. I was always a great orator, even though I used to be country. And, and it was just like speaking was always my thing. I stayed in trouble. My senior year, I got voted most spirited and most talkative. Like, I've just always been that person. I've always been argumentative. I've always questioned why. I've always had an opinion. I've always prided myself on not only having an opinion, but a formidable opinion that makes sense and is shrouded in fact or an experience that is relevant to whatever's being talked about. And so I
Mhm,
always knew I loved entertainment. I did drama in high school. I was thespian. I was on debate. So that's extemporaneous speaking, that's impromptu, that's
mhm,
dramatic interpretation, prose and poetry. So I was
mhm.
geared for uh entertainment career, entertainment, hosting, working in the background. And I've always read well too. And people are in the business for the show, but I'm in the show for the business because the business is where the money is made. And
You better
so
say it.
I just felt that, and I think that it was a thing about money. I think money
Mhm,
played a big part in that because it was like, I can go do this 6 years. I'll be 24, 23 years old. I have this PhD in pharmaceuticals and okay, doctorate of
mhm.
pharmacy. That's great. I'm making $160,000, but am I happy?
Right.
So my dad didn't talk
Yeah.
to me for a month after I changed my major. He was so pissed off at me. You just gonna be broke.
Mhm.
I want to be a broke ass man. Entertainment ain't never made nobody no money. I'm like, Denzel Washington, Whoopi Goldberg. The list literally truly goes
You
on and
better
on.
listen.
Richard Pryor, like
Mhm.
so many people have gone and made it, but once again, I'm a
What
country
did
ass.
your mom say about it?
My mom is just happy that I'm not somewhere selling drugs and I ain't got a whole bunch of kids running around. And when she needs somebody to help pay a bill, I got it.
Mhm, mhm,
I think my
mhm,
mom is
mhm, mhm,
really about me being happy, and I think that her thing. Child, if you go ask my mama what it is that I do, she can't even explain it. I'd be like, Mom, I'm a producer. I do this, this, and that. And she's like, so is that like a lawyer? I'm like, no, not quite, but I do work in the space where law, I do have to understand the law in regard to production because there's copyright
mhm,
infringement, there's trademark infringement, there's all type of labor laws because I'm hiring this staff and knowing meal breaks, how overtime works in the state of California. So I got to know all these things, but it's not quite like that. But yeah, my dad just was really worried about me being broke. Plus, my dad had cancer my freshman year. So for him, he wanted to make sure, like, if I die tomorrow, I need to feel like, damn, my son is going to be able to make it. But he died never being able to grasp it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to move to California. Oh, you crazy. Like, what you going to do out there? It's expensive. You ain't got no money. And then it's
mhm.
like, I don't know. I'm going to make it work. And I've been here 7 years now.
You have. And I'm so proud of you. Okay, so good transition going to California. The ideal question would be why California, but I don't want to ask that. I want to know what that looked like as far as you traveling in that mindset. Like I'm really about to go to LA and like live it up and go after my dreams. That's what I want to
I don't know. It was weird. So there's a professor at Texas Southern. His name is Dr. Tyrone Dixon. He's very
know.
profound. What's that movie? Roll Bounce with Bow Wow. It's
Hmm.
based off of his documentary Eight Wheels and Some Soul Brother Music. It's a documentary about skating, and then he pitched the idea with some fellow producers to get Roll Bounce made. And so I took a couple of his classes when I switched over to radio, TV, film communication, and he just always was like, "You're a great writer and you comprehend well. Like, I believe that if you go to LA, you will be great. Like, you will figure it out. You'll make it work, or at least get some type of expound on what it is you have going on." And I was like, "Oh, you
Right.
crazy as hell." That was around November. So right before Christmas break 2013,
Hmm.
going into the spring of 2014 when I graduated, he was like, "I'm going to be in LA from these dates. Pick a date, come out to LA. I'll show you around. You can go look at some couple of grad schools, Let's do it." Because I don't know anybody in
I
LA.
did not know that.
Huh?
I did not know that. I thought it was New York first and then LA.
So I wanted to do New York. So that's when I went to go visit after graduation and realized I hated New York. Because I was like, okay, I'm planning to move
Mhm,
to LA, but New York, DC, Atlanta, Chicago, and LA were my five cities. And all of the other ones got too cold, and LA just had the most promise for money. And so when I came to visit that January, uh first place I went was to the beach, and I stood at Venice Beach, and I was just like, oh my God, I've never stood on the beach like this. Like, this is beautiful. Like, this is it. And well, I lied. That was a few months after I went to Africa. Africa has the most beautiful beaches in the world. But as far as a place I could at that time tangibly
mhm,
live, that's close enough to home, like in all of America, this is beautiful. This weather in January is perfect. I just left a cold ass Texas, and you mean to tell me it's January and I can be at the
mhm,
beach?
mhm.
I should have booked the fucking one way. So I went through that, did that trip or whatever, fell in love with the city. So 6 weeks later, it was spring break. I came back in March. I stayed for a week. That time I got a rental car, moved around, looked at apartments, figured out like living, getting around. And yeah, 6 months later, then I visited New York that summer when Jarvis was going to grad school in Columbia.
Mhm.
Realized I hated New York. I didn't like the subway. In Texas, we're not used to public transportation like
We don't
that,
know what that looks like.
and it's disgusting. It's a third world country to me. I just not my thing by far. But
Mhm, mhm,
yeah, after that, I was actually bicycling across the Brooklyn Bridge, and I got a phone call from my advisor at New York Film Academy, the branch in LA where I ended up going. And she was like, "Hi, the cost of attendance is 80,000, and we want to give you a $30,000 scholarship. Plus, my dad was in the military, so I had VA benefits. So all of
right.
that coupled, I was like, okay, so I can go to LA and go to film school and cover the same cost as if I would have went to UT Austin's program. Why not?
Mhm.
Took a chance, moved here not knowing the soul. Come to find out, my cousin was living here in downtown LA. He was trying to work on his music career, and then that moved where I had a place to stay because his roommates wanted to move out. Then I ended up finding an apartment in the valley. After that lease ended, like everything just worked like so smoothly. Like it was just meant for me to be here. And that's when I was like, yeah, California was it. It was just the vibe. It was the fact that if I was going to work with my degrees in Texas, I'd be working in the newsroom because my minor was journalism, or I'd be writing for some local news wire. Never
Mhm,
would I be on the music set with a producer who has an Oscar, or sitting
mhm.
here at a restaurant and I'm able to just go walk up and talk to this famous producer or this writer or this artist or whatever. Like, that's just not an experience that Texas allowed me to have. So coming here with what my dreams were at that time, the goals I had set, and just the pace of my career at the time, California just seemed to be the best place to go.
I have to agree 100% with that. My experience only being there for what, 2 months, and, I want to be a little stylish back in the day, a little stylish
You
little
want to
thing.
leave?
Okay, and what? I was able to style, Denise Boutte within 2 months, and that was just off connecting with people. Well, through you.
Exactly.
So, I have to it's a total different vibe. If
I've never
film
gotten
and
a job in
entertainment.
LA. I've never gotten a
Yes.
job in LA except the one time when I worked at the porn company.
I remember.
That's the only job I can remember applying for. Every other part of my career here has come from somebody knowing about me or having heard about me. And
Yeah.
that's why LA is a place that's very big on reputation. What you know here doesn't matter. It's great that you know something, but to get in the door to
Mhm.
use that, you pretty much have to know somebody. It's very much so a city that's gate kept by a few people. It's a web.
So, I have to ask you, because some people don't know how to network. Some people just sit in the room, in the corner, they hold up walls, and they're like, "Okay, Imma just wait for somebody to come to me." How do you particularly go into events or go into these, networking parties or whatever that may look like, and make sure that you rub elbows and shake hands and leave with a number or 2 or even just an impression?
First of all, I make sure my outfit is cute.
You ain't lying about that?
gotta make sure my outfit is cute because number one, that then gives a layer, allowing somebody who might be like the person you described as nervous. Now you gotta end. Oh my God, your suit is all houndstooth. I love it. Where did you get your suit from? Oh, I got it from Blase Blah. Oh, da 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 da. Oh, what do you do? Now a conversation is sparked. Oh, blah blah blah. And in LA, networking is different too because you always fall into the groove of it, even if you're just out to lunch or at dinner. Because in LA, everybody's gonna ask who you know, where do you work, what are you working on, and they just really, how many followers do you have? Can I get your Instagram? Like, well, my name is Kris. Nice to meet you. Like, you just bombarded me, asking me all my personal life. Let's start off with just basic. We're people. I'm Kris. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It does get convoluted, and I think that the landscape here almost forces networking. Because even if you're uncomfortable, every waiter, every bartender, every hotel manager, every goddamn person that you walk on the street has a script, wants to be an actor, is a director, wants to be a cameraman, wants to direct music videos. Everybody here has a dream. And so
Mhm.
it just kind of is like everybody wants to talk about what they have going on. So you're kind of pushed into it versus a place like Houston. I would then need to figure out my end. Okay, who have they talked to in the room? Have they talked to anybody that I know? Could I allow that person to then give me a segue? Once again, I might not even like your outfit, but I might be like, oh my God, that's a great suit coat. Where did you get that from? And then I
Mhm.
spark that conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. I have a pitch meeting and I was just trying to think of something to wear and your blazer looks great. What field do you work in? Blah, blah, blah. How
Mm.
you sparked it. It's just trying to find, you just have to find a level of commonality between you and the networking point, ride
Mhm.
that into the threshold, and then everything else just, for me, organically happens. But you
I
also
love
can't do
it.
the think face. You can't think you too cute and you just sitting in the corner of a room like.
And I feel like that's California. I feel like I got that was a lot of that in California.
And those are the girls that are going to be 45, remembering the time when they were 25 and they were in that room sitting there being too cute, and now they're 45, it's all dried up and there's no opportunity because you didn't seize the day when it was your time.
Not dried up.
Now the whole
So as you
time
mentioned,
like,
so you mentioned, which is something I kind of want to backpedal on as well. There are a lot of actors, actresses, producers, directors, etc. in LA. All have the same dream of just making it, basically. It may look different from, other people, but they just want to make it. So how do you set yourself apart from the next person?
by not being thirsty for it. It's a lot of thirst.
Because they need something to drink.
They need something to drink. They need something at the bank. Everybody needs something. They're looking for a point of collaboration. Like, I'm not thirsty for it. I've worked in places and it's just like I get this vibe because I guess when people want you to work hard, there's a thing where they want you to sweat for it. But I remember when I started working in Fashion Nova, they asked me in an interview, "Are you a hard worker?" I said, "No, I'm a smart worker," which means you'll get more work out of me than a hard worker. And she just kind of was like, "Okay." So it's just like I don't know. You just have to stand apart. Like I know everybody else is bringing you something similar, but it's not wrapped up in the total package as me. Not only am I able to write, I have a strong verbal presence. Not only that, I know how to lead and delegate. Not only that, I have an education underneath that. Aside from that, I'm likable. Aside from that, I'm funny. Aside from that, I know conflict resolution. So outside of just being a writer or a producer, it's the little petty particulars that fall in between that not everybody's going to possess. Because there are people out here that are talented, but they have no people
Mhm.
skills. Like Summer
Mm.
Walker, for instance, horrible anxiety. That makes it hard for her to work in a room. She's done amazing with that. However, she had to have a hell of a talent, a hell of a talent for somebody to be like, all right, we're going to deal with your social anxiety. We're going to deal with the fact that sometimes you might hold up shows and cost us money, but you're so goddamn good at what you do, we're going to deal with it. But also, it didn't seem like she was too thirsty for it. It just naturally
Mm.
happened. I try not to push it. Some people want to force their art on you. They want to force that script in your hand. I'm just not gonna do that because I know I would be annoyed. So I know it's cliche, but treat others how I want to be treated. I don't want to be around somebody that's so thirsty for opportunity because when you're that thirsty for opportunity, you're gonna start fucking people over. Like you'll do anything.
You're gonna do and start doing things you're gonna regret.
Yep. And I always in my book I also talk about you got to be able to go to sleep knowing that what you did for the success or whatever it is you got around you, At the end of the day, when it's just you laying in that bed and your head's on that pillow and you're reflecting, you have to be able to be like, you know what, this was worth it. Because for everybody, the ends do not justify the means.
Come on, Kris. That was good. Oh, that was really, really
It's
good.
just like I've seen
All
in
right,
over
so
50 years, I've seen LA suck people up. I have seen a nice,
mhm,
sweet, calm girl come here from the middle of Georgia, smiling with all her teeth. And she's going on audition
mhm,
after audition. She's trying to book e-commerce shoots. She's trying to, be on a billboard. And it don't happen for her. Next thing you know, she's out every night. Next thing you know, she's drinking and turning up. She's a bottle girl. Next thing you know, she's trying to just get in with a baller and a player and just being thirsty. I mean, there's girls out here that will see me and you talking, and if I'm a baller, will interject herself right here, like we're not talking. It gets very thirsty in the space, and a lot of people can't handle, I guess they would say, competition. But
right.
I've never felt that somebody who was being thirsty was gonna outshine my presence of just being in the room, let alone my work ethic, my capability, and just what I offer on the table. It's really just confidence in what you got to offer, knowing that even if you do pass up what I got, it's gonna be you that regrets it.
That's true. That was so good. All right, so now we're gonna get into our storytelling portion. This is pretty much the highs and lows of life, business, whatever that looks like for you. So we're gonna start off with patting yourself on the back. What are some highs to where you can say, "Dang, Kris, you did
Putting my book out at the top of the pandemic. I remember when we talked about, you was like, write the book, write the book. Why are you not writing the book? Put the book out. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna put the book out. And it really came out like good. It came out better than I thought. Like I've sold hundreds of copies of it, and I'm just like, dang! Like in the first year of a book, a self-help book that's my size and in that market, you might sell 100 copies. So to have
that?"
sold hundreds in that year and a half time, I'm really impressed. Working at Fashion Nova was a big deal. It definitely boosted my network. It boosted the people I had access to, the rooms I'm able to get in. It definitely did do a lot on the resume, on the back end of anything else that happened with that part of my career. Um, what else is it? I haven't had to sleep under a bridge or in a tent in LA. You've been here. You've seen the tents and the bridges.
Yes, that is a like that's a real good pat on the back because that made me so nervous. It was like a whole street. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, and it's people I know that there's a guy I know, he sold the app. He's made Forbes 30 under 30. He was sleeping in his car
Yeah.
and literally got a call like, hey, we want to buy your app. And then his name and face was everywhere. And nobody talked about, oh, this is the young man that was homeless sleeping in his car. All of that stopped mattering. So it's just like you always are this close to your dream in Hollywood. You just have to be, willing to go out and get it. So I
Oh my
think those are the highs I've had. It's just, oh, and the networking I've done. Like, my God, the people I've been in rooms with, the freaking
God.
contacts that I can just call off the rip, like, hey, oh, Kris.
Right.
And it's people that you see and you be like, oh my God, that's such and such. I'm like, child, please, we're going to smoke a blunt with her later. Like, it's crazy. It's definitely, I don't know. I'm proud to have created this lifestyle. Coming from where I'm from, like, this shit is impossible.
Yeah.
Like, no kid in Orange is supposed to be living in the second largest city in the country and thriving and doing well and making it happen. So just that alone, even if all my shit would have failed, me being able to hold it afloat this long with no accolades, I still feel enriched in what I've done.
I'm so proud. I
Yeah.
mean, when you said that goal, we talked about the book, we talked about you moving and grooving and going after your dreams. You are doing it
I'm
and
trying.
not looking back. I'm so
Yes,
proud
man.
of
Ain't nothing
you.
about what's behind you. You can only move forward.
I love it so much. Okay, so let's talk about the other end of the spectrum, which is a low. Anything that makes you question, should I move forward with me doing this, or should I stop and maybe go back home? Anything that makes you
A
question.
one-way flight. I'll never forget. I had a one-way flight booked back. I had scheduled to ship my car back home. I was going to use my last 3 grand to fly home, ship my car, and figure out an apartment somewhere in Houston. Because I was like, yo, because it was after my grandma died, and when all that stuff happened with her insurance policies, my mama, my aunt, nobody. We need $7,500 in 48 hours. or
Gotcha.
you not having a funeral. And I'm like, oh damn, like that's my grandma. I'm not gonna put in an unmarked grave. So I spent that $8,000 or whatever. On top of the week that I paid that $8,000, it was the week that I shot my master's thesis film, which cost me $3,500. I
Mhm.
had to do all the graduation requirements because I was 2 months away from my master's degree. Plus, I live in Los Angeles, which means I have rent, gas that cost at the time like $4.70 a gallon, insurance, maintenance. I need hair. I need to get my mani pedi. I need to go get my facials. Like, I have a certain lifestyle. I have a fluff and fold bill. Like, the lifestyle just intensified. So at that time, I'm rambling. I'm
Oh, first of all,
like, I'm like, I'm rambling, doing all of this, trying to keep it afloat. I'm like, I'm about to have this master's degree. They're gonna love me. I'm great. I'm gonna get a job off the bat. Okay, here's the money. Have the funeral. All that gets done. I graduate. That's January. February roll around, no job. March roll around, no job. June roll around, no job. My savings account, no job is showing. Then by September, it's like, okay, I'm strapped. I finessed everything I can. And now it's like, okay, I'm losing my apartment. I'm barely holding on to my vehicle. Why the fuck is nobody calling Kris Welcome with an opportunity? If anybody should be getting an opportunity, it's me. But
mhm.
that just wasn't what the universe had. So I remember signing up for Texas teachers, like most people from Texas do when it gets sour. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna work in this school district. I'm gonna go to Aldine. They'll pay me 60,000 with a master's degree because in Texas, $60,000 you can be a sugar daddy and be taking care of yourself.
You better say it.
Out here, $60,000 you still getting food stamps, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a difference. It's a total different lifestyle.
And I don't know, it was just all of those things. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just eat this up. I'm gonna go home for a year and I'm gonna come back. And my everybody just kept saying people that leave don't come back. And then that was my 3 year mark. And then I thought of all the people that was like, oh, I'm gonna come back. Oh, I'll be back in 6 months. None of those people came back. And I was
Mhm.
like, ugh. So I fought it out till the last day. Literally the next morning at 8 a.m. I was gonna meet this guy, said to put my car on his truck, and that evening at 4 I was gonna fly out to Houston. My
Mhm.
friend called me the night before and she was like, hey, I just got this job at MPC, which is the moving picture company.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay. She was like, and I need a producer. I need somebody that works in production that I can hire to start like next week. I was like, bitch, I'm moving home tomorrow. I I was like, I'm on a one-way home. She was like, do you want to stay? I'm like, yeah. She was like, well, I'm telling you, you got a job. So I still went home, left my car here. I went home. I stayed home for a week just to visit my mom and like wrap my mind around the clusterfuck. Like, okay, I just had once again, I had my plan A. Me going
Mhm.
home was like plan P. I had
Mhm.
tried so many other things in between. So I'm like, all right, plan P is to go home. And then once I get home, I can interact with Q through Z and figure it out until I get back to
Mhm.
my plan A, which is to be my ass in Hollywood.
Mhm.
But yeah, my friend Alex Hurd, I'll never forget it, called me and was like, I got a job. And I was like, okay, it's meant for me to be here. So at this time, I'm staying with a friend in North Hollywood. I end up getting a spot subletting out of this townhouse in the Beverly Hills area. I'm like, oh, I'm working for motion picture company. I'm hustling, doing this and that on the side. And 3 weeks into the job, I get let go. And I'm like, I just moved into a townhouse where I'm splitting rent 3 ways at $5,000. What you mean? You not about? What you mean? No, 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 no. I need this job. And then that happened. Then there was so many other things that happened. I ended up figuring out a way because I'm a finesse. I figured out how to get out that lease without telling them I lost the job. Kept that up for enough time as I could. And then from there, I ended up getting the job at the porn company, which then expanded my skill set.
Mhm.
And it was just like, wow, like there's a book called The Kabbalion, and it's about these ancient Hamitic principles. And it says that life's pendulum doesn't swing one way negatively without swinging the same force in the positive direction. So life can be
Mhm.
shitty as hell, but it's gonna get awesome as fuck if you just ride the pendulum to the other side. And so I just always kept that in mind and stayed positive. So even at my lowest moments, it's like things always worked out. So now I don't even look at my moments as lows. I just look at them as my lowest highs.
Mm. That was so good. Okay, so as you know, people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for advice, and people don't use it, right?
Hmm.
So, what would be one free advice that you could give somebody that wants to be a producer or want to write a book, anything of that nature, that they can actually start today or tomorrow?
If you want to write a book, the only thing I can tell you to do is just start it. For some people, that might be just writing an outline. For some people, that might be like me, just code out, starting with the first word and just writing it down to the 20,000, 15,000, however long. Just start it. It's no right or wrong way to get started. The point is just to get into the hustle and bustle and figure it out. I don't think anybody who's had a great idea off the rip came out just knowing exactly how it was going to work or all the petty particulars. Just got off their ass and did it. As far as producing goes, producing is a very fickle space because it's a very legal space, it's a very analytical business space, but it's also a creative space, and it's very hard for those two to sensibly sit on in the same place. And so you just have to be well versed. You have to, number one, like to read. You have to be very responsible. Um, you should really be looking up the laws that go into filmmaking because as a producer, the person that gets sued when shit goes sour is the producer. Because
Right.
I was the person that was supposed to check safety. So my gaffer might have left the wire out for the camera
Mhm.
overnight, and the kid skateboarding might have fallen over the rope and broke his leg. Well, because that was owned by the set, that gaffer is, I mean, that grip is not going to take that lawsuit. It's going to be me and my production company and my insurance policy because I was supposed to be the last point of checking.
Mhm.
So a lot of people want to get out into the field and produce, but there's a lot of business that goes into it. I paid $80,000 for a master's degree so that I would know the ins and outs of it. Taking the class Producer's Craft, like teaching me about the creative aspect, knowing how to communicate with directors, knowing all of the pieces that you need. Even if me and you have a scene right now and I fake slap you, there's a whole person I have to hire called the stunt coordinator that gets paid very well just to ensure that it's safe. So it's like understanding everything because there are thousands of films that get made every year, but so many of them don't make it out because there's copyright infringement, there's trademark infringement. Something
Mhm.
petty is me walking through a scene in the neighborhood, and this house here has a copyright for the architect, and it's in my scene. That architect sees my film. Oh, wait, they didn't ask me could they shoot that in front of my home that I own the copyright to the design.
Wow.
And so now you're getting sued, which is why you need to know about the insurance that goes into it. There's general liability and there's error and omission. So if my film is copyright infringed or trademark infringed, or there's something that I inadvertently stole from somewhere that I wasn't thinking about, I won't be bankrupt by it,
Mhm.
but for years my insurance policy will cover it. I just say if you're going to get into production, don't just try to get into the creative space without understanding the business because the business is the main bulk of it.
Wow.
It's a hard
Yeah.
job. It's a very hard
That's the
job.
meat and potatoes. I mean, you really gave the meat and potatoes of it because some people think it's just so easy.
No,
In every industry, I feel like people think it's so easy because they see somebody else do it. So they're like, let me just jump into it. If they can do it, I can do it too.
and I hate that because when I moved to LA, I
Yeah.
didn't know anybody that lived here, and then it was like I knew two
Mhm.
people that lived here. I was like, "Are you just having a meeting, being like, well, if Kris can do it, I can do it. What does that mean?"
Done. Okay, so we are at the end of our conversation.
Whoop,
We
whoop.
usually end it with what's it's called a motivational moment. We usually leave it with a Bible verse, a quote, anything that sparked my eye. I bring it on here. I share my thought process, and you share yours, and then that's a wrap.
That sounds
So
like
you
a
ready for the motivational moment?
sure. I wish we would have pulled the quote from the Bad Bitch Bible.
Go ahead, go ahead, yes, bring it. Come on, quote.
What was your quote though? I'm interested to hear it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna see
To
if I can
accomplish
find
great
a similar
things.
quote in my book.
Okay. To accomplish great things, we must not only act but also dream. Not only plan but also believe. Anatole France. I think that's her name. Yeah, Anatole France.
That sounds like something that would have been in my chapter. Always have something to talk about, or don't be stupid, bitch.
Okay.
Ah,
Elaborate on that chapter. Give it to us.
But don't be stupid, bitch.
If you don't have something to talk about,
I always have something to talk about. Yes, hold on, let me pull it up. What page is that? Chapter 3, you can't take your bitches everywhere. That's very important to understand.
that is true.
Child, all the times we learned that in undergrad.
That definitely true.
Let's see. Let me pull a good quote from here. Let's see. It is important to always have something to talk about. I stress this point to my friends all the time because it is such an important life skill. I pride myself in the ability to sit at any table in the room and engage at great levels, no matter the conversation. Having a plethora of background knowledge is pertinent as you progress to new dimensions of your journey as a bad bitch. It's the difference between the invitations you receive and the spaces you're allowed to enter. It's one thing to offer physical qualities like a bomb box and pretty petite body, but an empty head will make you a dull drag in the long run.
Come on, don't draw it. That is so good because people feel like looks is gonna get them to the top, and looks can only go so far.
Only goes so far. Read your quote one more time.
Okay. To accomplish great things, we must not only act but also dream. Not only plan but also believe.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting because I think that planning, I like that it said planning because the first step of any great idea is planning the execution. A lot of people want to blindly just go in things, but things take planning. Like, I mean, an architect doesn't go into designing a building without a blueprint. A doctor doesn't go in to do a bad bitch's BBL without first marking her body down and understanding where he's cutting. There is not anything that happens on this planet without a plan. The first 4 letters of planet is plan. The whole planet has to plan. So yeah, and I do think that everybody has dreams. I think that that's the essence of human existence is that your dream is what gives you hope. If you don't have a dream, then the days when I was about to get evicted in LA and was like, damn, how am I going to put gas in this car? I had to have a dream because that's what gave me hope. So I'm a person that even though I'm not very religious, I don't knock anything that gives people faith or the energy to go on another day. I'm very much so like, okay, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, whatever it is, spirituality, whatever's going to get you up to fight another day, you should seek that out and do just that. But I do think that it takes planning and you do have to have a dream. You do have to have an idea. You do have, because we can live till we're 90 years old. You think you can live 90 years and not have a dream of what you want your life to look like at 50, 40, 70? So yeah, it is about a dream. It's about a plan and it's about execution. Because some people have a dream and some people have a plan. But that's how come I hate the idea of like dating people for potential. Everybody has potential.
Yes.
That's nothing new. But not everybody has promise.
That's right.
Everybody has work ethic and nobody
Loyalty.
has execution skills to go out and make the shit happen. So it's so many more layers. And I think the quote that you had really put the dreaming, the planning, and the getting out and doing it in the one perfect thing. Just like this, like it's the spaces you're allowed to enter, what you're able to talk about, what you're able to make happen. You have to plan these things. You have to know or have a certain wherewithal about you to really truly go out and get the things that you want in life. So if you just have a dream and you have all these plans, I've seen girls with notebooks and vision boards and guys that have all these mood boards saved. And I'm like, so what are you doing about this? Even on a day, like what are your 5-year goals? Oh, I want to have a big house. I want to be in a car. I want to have, a whole bunch of money. Okay, great. Most people. But what are you doing with that? And crickets. And I'm like, check, please. Check, please. Please check, please.
Now you're wasting my time.
Wasting my goddamn time.
Legit, because I always have that backup question. Yes, like I've always had that backup question. What are you doing now to get to that? Because what if you're not even supposed to have that? Let's just be honest. Some people be having those dream boards. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a billionaire. What if God don't even have that for you? And it just irritates me that You still doing the same thing you were doing 5 years ago. When we was in college, you still doing the same thing. I mean, you see it hadn't worked for you. How long we been out of college? 10 years now? No, that's high school. I know, that's high school. I'm over here trying to age us, but since 2014.
Look, I'm not even 30.
2014.
It's a long time ago, and
You
it's
still
crazy
doing
that
the
there's so
same
many people
thing.
doing the same thing. I'm like, so you haven't
Yes.
had no
I
career
can't.
advancement, you haven't traveled, you haven't expanded a family, you haven't, I don't know, it's, and I mean everybody have their season, so I don't be trying to knock it, but it's just frustrating when you see people like you say that have the potential and the ability and they just do nothing with
Sleeping
it.
on it. And they just sleeping on it. And that's why you
It's a
mentioned
story from the
earlier.
Bible where the
Yes,
guy
y'all
had
better go.
five
Okay,
talents,
tell the
two
people.
talents, and one,
Yes.
and the guy
Tell
with five talents went out.
them. Where can they buy the book? How can they find you? Website information. I know you mentioned that script writing, all that good stuff. Tell the people before we end where they can find you and locate you.
So you can find my book, The Bad Bitch Bible, on Amazon. It's available for shipping. I'm only doing the paperback right now because I really think that we should get back to this. There's something so powerful about having the tangible book, and I think that the digital age is losing that. And it's crazy how many people have wrote me like, I was complaining because it wasn't the ebook, but oh my God, I'm able to highlight and just put my hand right on it, and it's more in my face, so I'm more focused on thinking about it when shit happens. So I kind of appreciate that. But it's on Amazon. You can also find it on Barnes and Noble. Um, Also, I do script editing. So if you have a book or a movie script, or you need somebody to consult you, because there's a formula to everything you've ever seen on TV and film. If you give me a script that's a feature script, if I get to page 10 of that script and I don't know your main character, what their motivation is and what's happening, I should know your main character, what their goal is, and what's stopping them from reaching that goal. If I don't know the inciting incident by the 10th, 12th page, I'm scrapping your script. And most people just are telling stories to no end. So you call me to work on the character development to make sure that all of your characters are as deep as they can be, that your story is linear, that it makes sense, that you have a midpoint, that you have a climax, that you have the falling action, that you have the dark night of the soul, which is the point in the script where you feel like, oh, my character is about to be down and out and done, and then everything is back up again. So it's just knowing that. I will give a little bit of free game if you are interested in writing or needing that. I just ask that the people, before they hit me up for consultations, read a book called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. And it's like Save the Cat, the last book you'll ever need about script writing or something of the sort. You'll know it when you see it. They have like a free PDF online. But yeah, it literally teaches you the inner fabrics of script writing for features. Um, People that have written books have called me. I'm good with grammatics. If your story structure just doesn't seem to make sense, if there are portions that you feel could be more riveting and exciting, but you just can't figure out how to do it, I'm a great storyteller. I'm great at expanding the ideas you already have. I'm also ghostwriting my second book for a client right now about the myths of mental health, and she's a therapist, a Black woman, and she had a great idea, but she's super busy, so she sent me the notes, and I've taken her notes and I've written this book out for her. I've also wrote a book for another entrepreneur about the things business school won't teach you, more about the practicality of the field of business. So my writing is all over the place. And you know, the Bad Bitch Bible is a self-help book written to help you limit your circle of concern while you expand your circle of control. Cause shit's gonna happen to everybody. And it's either you're gonna let that bullshit stop you and keep you in today, and the sun is gonna rise up tomorrow in the same spot and will find you in the same place, and that's gonna just completely defeat the journey. And it's disrespectful to the journey to just sit in one place. So I mean, I do some of everything. I think that anybody that reaches out to me at almost any capacity of life could seek to gain something from me. Like Bree said, I'm a connector. Guess what? Damn it, you want to do some real estate development? I know somebody I can send you to. You want to figure out how to deepen your stock dividends? I know a financial advisor. You need a private banker. You got $10,000 you're trying to invest to figure out what to do with it. I got a friend that's a VP at a private bank. Like, anything you need, honestly, you can reach out to me and I can consult for it, especially if you got the fee.
Okay, don't forget the fee.
Don't forget the fee. Bree, tell them about the fee.
Well, I enjoyed you. I always enjoy our conversations. I've learned a lot of stuff that I didn't even know. I swear I thought you went to New York first and then you decided to go to LA.
So at New York Film
So,
Academy, the branch here in Burbank, when you're doing the masters in producing, they give you an option to do the first year in New York and then transfer your last year to LA. But after I went to New York for them 2 weeks and I thought about a cold that was 5 degrees, -10, I was like, I don't never need to live like that. I'm fine.
I'm out. I love it. Well, everybody that's listening, please make sure that you support Kris in whatever endeavor because he always gonna have something new going on. So make sure y'all
Oh,
follow. Did you say your
my
Instagram?
Instagram is at Kris Welcome _ KRIS welcome, like thank you, you're welcome _ that's my Twitter handle. um I mean, you can reach out to me at thebadbbible@gmail.com. uh yeah, you can just reach me on my socials and we can get everything going from there. Soon I hope to have the badbitchbible.com up and I will have my own author copies and I'll be packaging and distributing my own book. So it's a lot of things that I'm hoping 2022 brings about. I'm really excited. Oh, and I'm about to start writing my second book, Let's Get Real, Bitch.
Oh, I see a booking tour coming soon. We're gonna put that in the universe.
Very much so. I just need to get this COVID out the way, let some more people
Yes.
vaccinated, figure that, and we're gonna be outside.
Okay. Who gonna be outside as us?
And Ben.
Done.
I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see you again. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I am so happy we were able to connect and just do this. I will see you in November.
I'll be here. I'm gonna make sure I don't go nowhere. Just make sure you give me the dates.
Okay. All right, y'all. So I want to thank y'all again for listening. If you're listening to this morning, noon, evening, or night, have a great one.